Hey guys, today I want to talk about creating an effective content strategy. My name is Derek Hansen, and I help businesses be more efficient, effective, and profitable. So, getting down to the nitty-gritty of doing a content strategy, and the reasons why is, first off, most businesses are going to do this for sales. And so if that's why you're doing it, great. But there's also other reasons for doing this. That could be awareness. Maybe you want to get the attention of the people around you, right? And so part of that might be also SEO. There's obviously some impact there, and also a competitive advantage. Sometimes doing a content strategy can help you create information that your consumers want, and then hopefully in the end buy from you. And so that can be a very powerful reason for doing that. And so when we start creating a content strategy, the first thing you want to start with, though, is who you're trying to target. This often, I would say, are your key stakeholders. Most of the time, what people often look at is just the consumer side, and that would obviously relate to the sales side of things. But sometimes creating content can have more benefits to other people that surround the business, right? So perhaps with some of the owners of your business, creating content so they're informed as to what you're doing and what it is that they can look forward to with the business that you're doing. Sometimes this can also be employees, right? It can create morale. It can drive interest into what's going on and seeing some benefit behind the business. It can create spirit. And so targeting stuff specifically for your employees also can be a real benefit. Perhaps partners or partnerships that you want to create or already have. If you're trying to create content, that might help drive businesses to come to you and say, hey, I really like what you're doing, and I'd like to hear a little more about that. Media outlets. Sometimes creating content can grab the attention of business, or not business, but the news outlets, so they get an idea of what you're an expert at or the kind of things that you're doing. And so creating news worthy stuff, or perhaps just being informative in such a way that they want to give you a call in the event that there is some sort of reason for them to interview you. And then for some people, maybe they want to become a content expert on a particular category or layer of information. And if that's the case, you might want to then talk about creating content that would relate to that. So show places that you've done speaking engagements, things like that. So you kind of get the idea. Who is it that you're targeting? That's the first piece of creating an effective content strategy. The second thing is the type of content, right? So sometimes we think about, written or blogs and even video, but there's other things that you can do too, such as audio. Maybe you want to do a podcast, maybe you want to do interviews with people, so trying to switch it up based on the kind of people that you're targeting, right? So if in a informational video or something like that about your product might help for the sales side of things, so you get the idea of that. So another thing could be photos, also things that you guys are doing to get your product out there, videos, things like DIY, informational vlogs, product service team related videos. So you get the idea, but basically if you can figure out who you're targeting and then what's most interesting to them and then push that content for them, I think that is a real powerful piece of it. So we've got the who, the what, the when, right? And so once you figure out who you're trying to target, what it is that you're going to do, then you want to lay out a calendar or some sort of thing that you're going to say, we're going to do this at this time. Now, the reason for this is because sometimes, business gets really hectic or life gets really hectic. And so there's things that could really distract you from actually developing that kind of content. So if you really think about it, when is a good time also? So, are you going to do it once a month? Are you going to do it once a week? Is it once a day? Is it hourly? How much content can you create? and what kind of resources do you need around that. So just as an example, WordPress allows you to create blog posts ahead of time, right? So that they publish at a particular time, and so whether you've written it or not, it's going to push out. Now, I know that probably terrifies you like it terrifies me. So maybe you wouldn't want to actually write that kind of, do that. But the idea there is like it's pushing out whether you want to or not. And so if you think about, well, if you create a content strategy, if you just write once a month, the neat thing with that is, maybe you only have a 5 or 10 page website. Well, if you just blog once a month, you could, at the end of a year, over doubled the amount of content your website has, right? So that'd be a really strong SEO benefit. If you think about, a daily video vlog like I'm doing, that daily thing could create some awareness, allow some people to come and watch and perhaps subscribe. And so I create a kind of a constant thing there. So you just decide what really works for you, and then creating that calendar will help you stay on track. And being committed to that also, I think, is very important. And so then, how do you go about this, right? So like if you're doing video, maybe you want that hosted on your site. Maybe you want it hosted off on something like YouTube or Vimeo. If you have pictures, what kind of equipment do you need? Is it going to be on your phone? Is it going to be with a camera? I guess also with the video would be a prime example of that. Audio, what kind of tools do you need for that? And so, kind of figuring out the time frame, and then what kind of resources do you need? So just think about that. And I think sometimes with small businesses, the thing that they struggle with is they want to be as good as that high level company, but maybe sometimes being nimble and quick, like I mentioned earlier, having a competitive advantage and not having to produce the best quality, but just a good quality, might really help you get an advantage over your competition, because you're able to be nimble and create content more quickly, because you're not so worried about having every polished detail or all the bureaucracy that might relate with a bigger business. And so, how often are you going to do this? How it's going to be done? And then finally, one thing to think about is then promotion. So how are you pushing this out? How are you trying to get additional attention for those who are watching you? So if you're looking for a way to actually get customers into your wheelhouse, or to purchase from you, or to get awareness or something like that, you certainly need to promote it. Sometimes people create something and think, oh, they're just going to find it. Well, the problem is that's not always the case. You might actually have to, push it out there, promote it, and encourage others to actually think about that kind of information, and sharing it also, asking for people to do things for you. I think it's a real powerful strategy. And then, what's kind of some things to think about also on the negative side? There can be real consequences in not being creating a calendar, not promoting, right? Obviously, not promoting, you may not get the stretch or the breadth or the reach that you want in those content areas that you're creating. Another side of it, though, is just being inconsistent, right? So that the calendar is really powerful in that if you stay consistent with that, then people can trust that you're always creating something, or you're always making something for them. And so they know to come look for that. I think it builds trust. And so the end result of that inconsistency is that possibly you could lose sales. You could be embarrassed over something, or look silly because you're not being as proactive with that. So again, this is just a brief overview of creating an effective content strategy. Again, my name is Derek Hansen, and I hope that you connect with me. If you're a small business and maybe I missed a point, or you have some other thing that you want to share, I'd love to hear your thoughts about creating an effective content strategy, and I hope to connect with you in the near future.